Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 14, Episode 32, overall 747 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Brought to you by our friends at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Automall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with a great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Good evening, everybody, on this Sunday, August 9th, 2026. I just got back from the Toronto Milton area this afternoon. I was at the Oblivion Car and Culture Show for the 80s and 90s, and I have a lot of great content, and I actually got to do a couple of interviews today, and one was with Erica M., who's a former DJ and media personality on Much Music on City TV. So please make sure tonight you check out my media content from the Oblivion Car and Culture Show again today, this afternoon at Area 8 Conservation Park in Milton, and it's a beautiful park right off a lake as well. So great day as well. I hope everybody is doing well, and I'm excited to have our guest tonight. This is her first appearance on our show. We met through social media, and we're going to bring her on right now. Her name is Dr. Olabisi. Dr. Olabisi. She is a psychiatrist, or AKA Shrink, and we're going to bring her on right now after this applause. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Chris. Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well, and you?
I am doing okay, too, and I didn't butcher your last name?
You did not. I tell people it's pronounced Ola, like Spanish hello. Ola, then the letters BC. Olabisi. So you got it right.
And I put in the background too, in the background here for our show tonight.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. And how are you doing? And what part of the U.S. country are you in? What state are you in?
I'm in Florida, Tampa, a city called Tampa to be specific.
And one of my guests that was on my show a month ago, her name's Flo Loblado. She's from that area as well, and she switched careers as well, and she's a really good person too. So I've had a number of actually guests from the state of Florida.
You're just connecting with everyone, Chris, all around the world.
This technology really does shrink the world, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Literally.
Absolutely, including myself. So, but hey, I've had people on from 10 or 11 different countries, and I just really love what I'm doing. And I switched careers 7 years ago from security into media, and it's the guests and the storytelling that I love.
We have that in common. Obviously, I'm seeing patients instead of guests, but that's what kind of drew me to my line of work.
So what is your favorite thing about the state of Florida? What's the one thing what you love about it? And are you originally from Tampa?
No, I'm originally from the Midwest, but the main draw to Florida is the sunshine and the beaches. Unfortunately, there's a con to that everyone loves the sunshine and beaches, so it's become a bit overcrowded. But that's the main draw here. It's a very beautiful state.
Before we get into our show, can you explain to our audience the term shrink? Everybody says psychiatrist, but a lot of people say shrink. Can you explain to them that?
Yeah, well, I will say some practitioners become offended with this term. I am not one of them. I think it has some historical context to it, but folks want to be mindful because there are a lot of clinicians I know who are offended by being called a shrink. They think it actually makes them too sound small. But technically, no one truly knows where the word shrink derived from. Nowadays, most commonly when we refer to shrinks, we're referring to a few professions within mental health. Psychiatrists like myself, therapists, and then psychologists as well. So usually any of those three can be kind of referred to as a shrink. Originally, there were tribes in the Amazon basin who, as a practice after battle, would literally take the skulls of those they defeated and shrink it. And then over time, this became switched over from originally head shrinker to just simply shrink. I think in popular culture, like I read online that in 1950 or the 1950s, Time magazine had first written the word shrink in print, and it was ideally thought of as a funny way to refer to a doctor or therapist who is helping you shrink your anxiety or shrink your problems, shrink your depression. So over time, it evolved from maybe like a war term to now colloquial term that you hear nowadays. Uh-oh, it froze on my end.
DC, well, hopefully we'll get her back. This is on my end, so I do apologize. She was just talking to us about the term shrink with psychiatrist as well. So bear with me. I do apologize. I am back. Can you see and hear me now?
Yes, I see and hear you. It froze on my end too.
Just 1 second. A technology. Yes.
Always.
Yes. So I apologize. Technology of shrink with psychiatrists. Okay, are we back?
Yes.
Okay, I do apologize for that.
No problem.
Technology, like I said, everybody, bear with us and we'll get through this. Thank you for the term.
You're welcome. I just want to make sure you captured the full explanation.
I think we got most of it before my the internet connection.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah,
No
I'm just trying to figure a technology. Technology is great when it's perfect, but sometimes it doesn't go perfect. I think we'll get through this. So, yeah. Since we're going to try to get through this, and hopefully we'll get it back on. Can you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I'm originally from the Midwest in the U.S., Indiana. I'm kind of born and raised there. My handle is the Doc Mom of Two. So I've got two little girls. I'm also married to an amazing husband. I've been practicing psychiatry for about 6 years now, and also did most of my training in my home state of Indiana. Outside of, work, because it can be quite mentally taxing, to be honest. I really enjoy traveling. I've been to, I think, 23 or 24 countries so far, and I'm hoping to add more to that. I enjoy reading, bicycling, and just being out in nature in general. Chris, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still there. Yep, I can see and hear you good. Everything's good on my end.
Okay. Yeah, so that's just kind of me in a nutshell.
23, 24 countries. That's amazing. I've only been to 2 countries. Now, out of those 23, 24 countries, I know you probably liked all of them, but are there a couple that stood out for you? And have you been to Canada yet?
My favorite country probably so far would be India. I got to go to 3 cities while there. And India, I just found it was like very culturally diverse, depending on what region you were in. And some of it felt quite adventurous. There are lots of Indians, including friends and just in different sectors that I've worked, a lot of Indians here in the States. And so it was nice to kind of see their culture and the variety of cultures that they have there. Yes, I've been to Canada. In fact, I just went for the first time this year, only to Toronto for like a quick self-care trip, which was enjoyable, but very cold and rainy.
Right now, it's probably about 90 degrees here, so I'm not sure when you went, but our summers are hot and humid here, and I'm only an hour from Toronto, so Toronto is a very diverse city too. It's our version of New York, Chicago, and LA.
Yes, I was very surprised, taken aback by that. I tried so many different cuisines from around the world. It was very diverse. So I would ideally like to come back at some point.
Well, please do so and let me know because I'm only an hour away from Toronto. But don't drive to Toronto. It is one of the worst cities in North America for driving. Take the train, take a bus, take public transit. The city is just it's either construction or there's just so many cars.
Yes. Sounds like
Some
New
people
York
in Toronto
City.
tell me it takes 2 to 3 hours to get around their own city.
I believe that from what I saw. The limited.
Absolutely. Now, absolutely. Now, when you travel now, what's some of the favorite food and music that you listen to in these other countries and sightseeing?
Favorite food. Well, in general, my favorite food is Italian, like lasagna, anything with the rich tomato sauce. Now, I've not been to Italy yet. However, a lot of other countries use tomato as a base for so many amazing dishes. So I think West African cuisine, I should be more specific, is what comes to mind. They use a lot of tomato bases for a lot of different dishes. That would be kind of like my second favorite. And then sightseeing, I think what comes to mind, the most breathtaking sight I've seen so far would be the Taj Mahal. And there's nothing like seeing that for the first time. It was just amazing.
Now, if you mentioned pasta, I love pasta too. There's a little place not far from me. This woman, Andrea, has her own little restaurant. She makes the best lasagna you ever had. Homemade lasagna is the best. And she makes lasagna soup on top of that.
Oh, wow. I've not heard of that, but it sounds amazing.
Lasagna soup is delicious. So if you ever come to my area, I'd be happy to take you to Cipriana's Pizzeria. It's not just the pizzeria place. She has everything made by a homemade scratch. And I'm telling you, it's the best lasagna you'll ever taste, I think. Maybe not as good as this stuff in Italy, but hers is really good as well.
What city are you based out of that's an hour from Toronto?
I'm in a city called Guelph, Ontario. It's about a little over an hour from Toronto. It's about 2 hours from Buffalo, New York, and it's about 170,000 people. So it's not like a million people, but it's big enough, and it's in a good location where it's not far from the U.S. border, but it's also about a little over an hour from Toronto.
I see. Okay.
And it's known as the Royal City, and the university here is world known for its vet programs and all that stuff.
Like for veterinary medicine? Like
yes.
Animals?
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. It's one of the best universities out there for that. Yes. So I'm going to ask you a question. Where did you attend school, and who are some of your early influences and mentors, and when did you get the bug for the psychiatry, the mental health industry?
So I attended school at most of my, latter years in Indiana at Indiana University. That's where I did medical school. And influences, I don't know. It's kind of a roundabout way, so I'll try to keep it short. A lot of different points in my life, the influences were more so influencing, not intentionally, but influencing me on negative things and not in the right career paths that I felt called to. And so I kind of feel like some of the influences, if this makes sense, Chris, initially were teaching me the things I did not want to do, the things I did not want to see for myself or my family in the future. So it's like maybe seeing the negatives, you actually decide and weed out that to decide what you really want to do, if that makes sense. So I've always been really attracted to science and learning. I was a pretty good student. I loved school. If I could work and be in school still and get paid to be a student, I would do that ultimately. But I think as I got to my latter years, I started having mentorship from other women in medicine who kind of encouraged me to continue on with the path, that there will be challenges, etc. In particular, Dr. Allen comes to mind. She was our dean of medical school, and she was just an awesome woman. She's still practicing and everything, but she was one of the ones who always encouraged me, kept her door open, that you could go in there and cry or talk just about any time. But again, ultimately, in my younger years, it was more so seeing a lot of negativity around me that taught me what I didn't want out of life. In my latter years, as I was a young adult, I immersed myself around those who I saw in myself. Like, I wanted to be a doctor, so I hung around doctors or grad students, etc., if that makes sense.
We have a viewer watching on Instagram Live. His name is am.jc, and he just wanted to say hello to you. And he had a few comments. He just said, psychiatrists shrink eagles, travel's the key, so is nature. India has great architectural. And then he said something about the temples as well. So am.jc, thank you for watching on Instagram Live. And for those people who are watching our show live stream right now, if you have questions for Dr. Olabisi, please put them in the comment section as well.
Yes.
Now, I wanted to ask you this, Dr. Olabisi. Do you find there's more females in the psychiatry shrink business? And do you find there's more diversity in the profession too nowadays?
So just to be clear, the question was, do I find the first question, are there more females as opposed to males? Is that right?
Yes. Yes, in the industry.
Honestly, I don't know the statistics, but when you look beyond just psychiatrists and look at therapists, social workers, psychologists, when you take everything as a whole, definitely in my experience, it seems to be more female dominated. I do not think that was always the case. And I think that shifted more so in the 60s and 70s. And I'm not sure about Canada. That's, I don't practice there, but definitely in the US, when you look at the whole umbrella of psychiatry and mental health, it's definitely female dominated as opposed to men.
Do you see more diversity in the profession too these days? Diversity, especially in the States?
It's getting better. If you're talking about ethnic diversity or, different diverse experiences and backgrounds, it's getting better, I feel, but there's still a long way to go. I'll say that.
Even in 2026, what are some stereotypes of the psychiatry shrink industry?
There's tons. One, that we just sit on a couch and the patient sits on the couch and just dumps their problems on us. And that couldn't be further from the truth. We have so many different practice settings, and most psychiatrists nowadays don't even do, old school therapy like they once did. I think also there's this misconception for psychiatrists that we're not doctors. In the US, psychiatrists, we prescribe medication, we do treatments, and we actually go to medical school. So we learn internal medicine, pediatrics, surgery. We have to learn a little bit of all of that. And it's before we even get to studying the mind. So we are bona fide medical doctors, just like anyone else in the medical profession. And then I think what keeps patients or individuals from seeking help is this belief, if I go see a shrink or a psychiatrist or a therapist, something's wrong with me or I'm crazy. And that couldn't be further from the truth. No one says if I see my cardiologist, my heart's bad, or if I see this specialist, something's wrong with me. No, it's just part of keeping up with your health. So those are like the three common misconceptions.
Do you feel mental health and empathy is shrinking these days? Social media?
Empathy and mental health shrinking in terms of social media? Oh, absolutely. I don't know why, but especially post-COVID, it just seems like the public, lay people just are more unhinged. And I'll give a recent example. This just came up today. There's a social media group, I'm not going to name it, but I'm involved in, and it's with women physicians. And a physician posted a question asking for help for her daughter, something really, really simple and basic. And there were so many negative comments from other women physicians, bashing and berating this poster. And it's like very odd because, we're in this group to support one another. We all have something in common, but it was just very unhinged. So that's a recent example. But I think empathy is becoming, unfortunately, a lost art. And I wish there was something we could do about that.
What about social skills? Do you think social skills have diminished too?
Like basic conversational skills, or what do you mean by social skills?
Just when I took the train the other day in Toronto, some people, strangers sat beside me, no problem, but they were on their phone the whole time. A lot of times when you're on a bus or train and that, nowadays nobody says hello or gets to introduce them to you. They just basically, they look down on their phones the entire time.
Yes. So if that's what you mean, yes, that definitely seems to be decreasing. And I think we are not intentional about fostering, conversations or connections with other people because we're all glued to this alert on our phone or that alert on the smartwatch, So I don't think it's necessarily out of disrespect or rudeness. I don't believe that. I just think people are kind of lackadaisical and honestly don't care about their neighbor like they used to.
Do you find social media and the internet has a lot of good tools, but do you also find it's affecting people's mental health a little bit more now too?
Yeah, actually, especially teens and young adults. Was some research that came out, a few years ago, and I think it's ongoing about the negative impacts of social media on developing brains and their self-esteem, etc. So definitely think there's so many pros to social media. I mean, again, we're connecting in this way. We're thousands of miles apart, and I have my platform to educate people. However, there's a dark side to it. And I think restrictions need to be placed on, our personal restrictions need to be placed on our use because it's detrimental. There's a lot of, let's just show our best self on social media. You're not really getting the real story or details of person's lives. And I think it's just detrimental. So every now and then, I just take a break from social media and delete it off my phone and everything, just so I can kind of get rid of that, that distraction.
Do you feel bullying and belittling others has increased too?
I'm not sure statistically if that's the case, but anecdotally, I think bullying, especially of social media, there's this term keyboard warriors, or, people can hide behind the anonymity of being on a computer or tablet. So then they're more bold or feel emboldened or empowered to be rude or, distasteful. I think that's very common. Again, so many reasons why. I'm not sure of all of them, but that does seem to be more prevalent. But when you mentioned bullying, Chris, it made me think about, I don't know if this problem is occurring in Canada. What I do know is that violence toward women, those levels have spiked since COVID and still continue to increase, unfortunately. Separate from bullying, though, but that's what came to mind when you asked that.
Because I also see on the social media too, there's a lot of good tools on it, but sometimes I see others belittle people too on there as well.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Dr. Olabisi, I wanted to get you this question as well. When you're looking for a psychiatrist, what are some good keys, tips in finding the right one for your needs?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, first, I would say look into their website, verify their credentials, because there are some persons, at least in the US, who are listed as psychiatrists. However, their what we call nurse practitioners or physician assistants, and there's just a different training process between the two. So I would say verify their credentials to make sure you know what you're getting. If you want a medical doctor versus a nurse practitioner trained or a physician assistant, that's key. And then, like myself, I'm trained in general psychiatry, but there are special areas within it that I have more experience, more practice, and comfortability with. So when you're reviewing their website or the referral information, make sure your concerns are listed. If it's anxiety, great. If it's ADHD, great. You want to make sure that that's, mentioned, of course. And then the traits about the person. Well, before I get to the traits about the person, so it's important to know how many minutes you'll be meeting with the psychiatrist. So some places, believe it or not, are 10 to 15-minute visits. And that is so incredibly difficult to do. I don't know how people manage with this field. You're not just looking at a broken finger, you're looking at their mind and asking lots of questions. So you want to make sure you'll have enough time with the doctor to actually ask your questions, express your needs, etc. And then basic traits like empathetic, compassionate, knowledgeable, that they're approachable. I think those go for, any career field, but those definitely go a long way in this field as well.
Dr. Olabisi, you mentioned 10 to 15 minutes. Ideally, in a perfect world, how much time do you feel should be necessary for a client? Like, obviously 10, 15 minutes goes by quick, but ideally, if you had to say how much time would you say you would need at least with a client to give them a good session?
Yeah, so if it's my first time meeting them, I prefer 60 minutes minimum to 90 minutes. And that's like a sweet spot in there because a lot of times they're going to be exhausted by the end of it anyways and tired of, sitting there talking to you too. So that's for an initial visit. However, for follow-ups, once you get to know them and you're just seeing them periodically, I think 30 minutes is like ideal. Sometimes you even still need more than that because they're just so complex, but 10 to 15 minutes does not even scratch the surface.
Now, before you prescribe the medication, do you have to go through their family doctor first before the psychiatrist can issue a medication?
No, not necessarily. Obviously, kind of the one nuance to that is we want to know what other medications a patient might be taking because there can be interactions or combined side effects that occur with the medication we're prescribing. But no, we don't get any clearance from family medicine. Is that how it's practiced in Canada?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Interesting.
Definitely. Now, I wanted to ask you this as well. Can you tell our audience a little bit about the certification, the education process of getting into this psychiatry industry, if somebody's out there looking to get into this profession?
Yeah, so gear up because it's a long road. I'll say that up front. So obviously after high school, you do your college, which is generally 4 years. After that, or around your final year of college, you can apply for medical school, which is a very arduous process in this country. Medical school itself is 4 years. So you got 4 of undergrad, 4 of medical school, that's 8. And then towards the end of your medical school, you've rotated through every field. You decide, yes, I want to be a psychiatrist. Then you apply for residency. And this is where you're working in the hospital and in the clinics and, seeing everything in your actual area of training. That's another 4 years. So that's 12 right there.
Wow.
But people often do, not me, because I was ready to be done, but some people do additional training after that called a fellowship. Those can be anywhere from 1 to 3 years long. And you can be up, 15 years by the end of the day.
In a way, I guess that weeds out the people that aren't really serious about the profession.
Exactly. Yes. And, they might have been weeded out even before them because there's so much testing and a lot of, time away from friends and family. And, it's not right for everyone.
I was going to, now I forgot what I was going to say. I should have wrote it down. No, it's not your fault. It's my fault. That's why I always have a pen and piece of paper. I will remember it when we get a minute or second. But I'll go to the next question, and if I remember what I wanted to ask you, I will just get back to it. Can you just explain to our audience, Dr. Olabisi, what an American BARF or BPARF psychiatry and neurological board certified psychiatrist entails? Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
It's okay. I think it's a typo. It should say American Board, and that just
Okay.
means board certified. So in the U.S., after you finish your residency, so after you do your 12 to 15 years, you have to do this extra long test. And it used to be both a written test and what we call an oral test, where you're actually interviewing patients in front of experts, and you put on the spot. Thankfully, they got rid of that part for us. But it's a really long written test, and you have to pass that to be officially board certified. It just kind of signals that, you've had this, you're fully validated, and then they hold you to higher standards. You have to recertify periodically to show that you're keeping up with the trends and not, practicing medicine from 20, 30 years ago.
Do you find the psychiatry industry is increasing, or do you find it shrinking these days?
You mean in terms of like practitioners?
Yeah, people getting into the industry.
Well, I think for a time it was slowing down because a lot of psychiatrists in this country were basically aging out and retiring. However, post-COVID, and then maybe a little bit before COVID, in the US, they actually started increasing residency spots for psychiatry so that we can train more new doctors to help replace those who are retiring. So I think it's actually increased now. Plus, the field of healthcare and medicine is always evolving. And I think we talked about this previously, the same for Canada. People are realizing that our specialty offers like a good balance of nice lifestyle and good pay. You're not in the hospital for 20 hours or anything, like a surgeon would be, for example. So that's increasing the desire for more people to come into this field.
Dr. Olabisi, how would you describe yourself as a shrink? And also, have you experienced burnout in this profession so far?
Yes. So first, how would I describe myself? I would describe myself as compassionate, patient, and then patient-centered, meaning that session when I'm meeting with you is fully about you. I'm not going to interject myself. I'm going to try not to interrupt. I'm truly focused on getting to know you so that I can best help you. I think too, one of my strengths, I actually love, the medical aspect so much. I sometimes catch things that were missed medically and can advocate for patients in that way. I see it all the time, unfortunately. And I'm like, I'm not even, family medicine, but here I am having to pay attention to these things too. So that's one of my strengths too, that I look at the whole picture, I feel. And then burnout, I can't say I have since I've been in practice because I take a lot of breaks. I mean, like I said, I travel. I need, if I could just be in school all day and take breaks and get paid, that's what I would do. So thankfully, I have not been burnt out yet. And I pray, knock on wood, that doesn't happen.
How important is a work-life balance, not just for your profession, but for a lot of people's professions?
I mean, it's the key to longevity, without that balance, you're putting yourself at a higher risk of bad health outcomes, terrible mental health outcomes. And so it's good to have balance. And the problem is balance looks different for me as opposed to you, Chris, as opposed to the person next door. So you ultimately define that. But I like the idea of some countries where they say we work to live as opposed to living to work, which is kind of how the US is based. I prefer the mantra of, the first one. I always get them back mixed up. I prefer to work to live. So I'm working just to keep up my lifestyle, but not to, tire myself into the ground.
Do you find more people today want to look after their bodies more than their mental health? Do you find mental health still doesn't get enough recognition that people look after their bodies?
No, not necessarily. I think especially since COVID again, I think more people are more apt to pay attention to their mental health. I think social media, incidentally, has helped with that. And a lot of apps on our cell phones, help with that. Mainstream media. So I actually think it's probably just about equal, if not maybe tipped more in the favor of let me work on my mental health and physical health a little bit less.
How important is the educating side of this?
Of my role.
Yes, the educating people too, which you can do through social media and the internet now.
Yeah, so I didn't mention earlier, but when I was younger, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. Like, I used to play fake class in my room with teddy bears and stuff like that. So I love teaching, and I get to do that, day to day with patients, just like explaining to me things that I take for granted. Like I would think, oh, everybody knows, sleep's important. If you don't get enough sleep, it can lead to heart problems. It can lead to dementia, etc. These are things I take for granted, but when I, share this knowledge with people, they're like, oh my gosh, I never knew that. And so I think education is paramount. It's just a lot of times it's not in the form that I thought it would be in, if that makes sense.
Now I remember when I wanted to ask you,
Oh,
what are
yeah.
some tips? What are some tips for continue to have good mental health?
There's so many, but I'll try to pare it down. I think what I often tell my patients is you have to look at yourself in multiple dimensions. So you got your physical dimensions. What are you doing for movement day to day? Are you walking around the block? Are you doing a yoga or Tai Chi class? Some type of movement is going to be key for mental health, physical health, just longevity in general. We also look at spiritual aspects. And I'm not just talking about religion, but how do you connect with your belief system or lack thereof on a spiritual basis? I find most people don't just believe we're, just skin and bones, that there's something more out of this life. And whatever that looks like, making sure you're in tune with that on a consistent basis. I also talk about socialization. Humans are social beings. So as much as people tell me I'm so anxious, I don't like people, I like to be alone, I'm introverted, I hear that all the time. That's fine. I'm introverted too. But we naturally are social beings, even if it's just a small conversation with a friend that day, or, talking to the guy on the train. We are meant to be social. And that's part of mental, physical health, keeping our brain sharp. So those are just a few basic things, like making sure you're keeping up with some movement, your spirituality, and obviously connecting with other people. But of course, there's more nutrition and a lot of other realms that are part of this too.
I know personally for myself, sleep, and I have to get back to walking again. I do so much media work with my 3 talk shows, my
Mhm.
freelance media work. You see me posting content. There's times where I just need to, you know what? I need to get some sleep and I need to rest instead of continue to work, because the next day or the day after, you don't function as well. So sleep and eating better, which is something I'm working on, and also walking too. As soon as we're done our show tonight, I'm probably going to go for a 20-minute walk just to get my legs moving and get some
Yeah,
fresh air. And then I can finish this when I come back after. It's not like it has to be all done tonight. I have that mentality where everything has to be done, and I just need to like relax a little more too. And you got to look after your body. Our bodies are like a car, and if you don't look after your body, and this goes for me too, and probably many others, it'll break down.
correct. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Yep. And we undermine the importance of sleep and even like short naps occasionally, all that is it's basic things, like I said, that again I take for granted. Sometimes when I'm discussing it with other people, they're like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. So but you're absolutely right.
Dr. Olabisi, what are some of the major differences between a psychiatrist shrink and those from the therapy profession?
So the biggest differences are trainings. So I mentioned, my training in general was 12 years. For other types of therapists, and I think okay, I'm going to try to simplify this. At least in the US, therapists, there's so many different types. Psychologists can do therapy, social workers can do therapy, There's marriage therapists. So their training are all different. And obviously, they're not as long as like to become a medical doctor. Generally, they're a 4 years bachelor's degree, a master's degree after that, sometimes a PhD, like for psychologists, but not always. And then after the master's degree, they have to get supervised clinical hours. They are more extensively trained in doing therapy. I mean, they do thousands of hours of strict therapy. Psychiatrists, we are trained in therapy, but I'd say it makes up maybe 30 to 45% of our training. Is definitely not the main focus of the training in the US nowadays. So we have the skills and the tools, but again, we don't have nearly as much as traditional therapists do.
How important is it to keep up on training and the latest in the industry?
Well, it's not only important, it's required. We have something called CME, Continuing Medical Education. And pretty much every state in the US has some type of requirement that you have to do CMEs every couple of years. But for board certification, it's the same. You have to get separate CME or continuing education for that. Things are always changing. There's even new medications and new treatment types that I'm not even aware of. And it comes across, or a patient will ask me about it, and I'm like, oh, I need to look into that. I'll get back to you on that. So you always have to be prepared and on your toes because things, they evolve day to day.
I know I can't speak for the States, but I know in Canada, I think there's an increase in mental health issues because of the high cost of living. And also there's more homelessness now out there as well.
That's unfortunate, but I think we are mirror imaging what you guys have there. I'm not sure about the homelessness, but mental illness, violence has definitely gone up within the past 5 to 7 years, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, the programs here have been reduced, and there's not in my opinion, there's not enough mental health places for some of these people, and sometimes jail's not the answer for them.
Right. Yes. It's interesting because often in the States, we hear this perspective of, everything's better in Canada, the healthcare, the mental health care. I always hear that. Again, I have not lived there before, so I can't speak to it, but it's just interesting to hear the perspective of a Canadian, as opposed to these stories we hear over here that everything's just, the grass is greener on the other side.
Unfortunately, our country has its issues too. Like there's a lot of great things about Canada, but we do have our issues as well. Like some people like free healthcare, but technically it's free, but our taxes are high and our healthcare comes from our taxes. So it's really not free healthcare and stuff like that too. So,
Right.
but I just, from my perspective here in Canada, our government, without getting into politics, needs to do more to help people with mental health issues and also homelessness too. You're seeing more people in tents, especially in Toronto. There's some even in Guelph too. And the government, I know you can't help everyone, but it just seems like the cost of living is causing some of these mental health issues too.
Yeah, people are really struggling, and lack of resources does not help. And there's not enough shelters. There's not enough, trained clinicians to meet the needs, and the needs just continue to exist. You're right.
Are you okay for a couple more minutes, a couple more quick questions, and we'll
Yeah,
wrap
sure.
this up?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Olabisi, how do you go about shrinking the stigma and dispelling myths about psychiatrists?
Well, in terms of social media, I try to present myself just as who I am, naturally in like real life, which is just another person. I tend to think I'm approachable. Growing up, I was used to seeing, people in healthcare, with their white coats on, and they're usually like old white men. And so that alone, if you're coming from a different background, can just be a different experience for you. And you may find it hard to identify because you're not mirroring what they look like. So I just try to present myself as, who I am, just me, and approachable, kind, just how I am, I feel like in my natural day-to-day life. In terms of shrinking the stigma, I think that this goes back to the education. lately I've been talking about addiction and how we need to change our thought about that and our terminology. I think education is key for that. And the more we talk about it, the less it becomes intense and powerful like it seems to be right now.
One thing I forgot to mention too, you also want to surround yourself with people who are positive and positive energy, because if you're in toxic work environment or toxic home life, that can affect your mental health as well too.
Absolutely. Environment. Yep. Environmental factors. Yep.
Have you thought about writing your own book or having your own podcast in the future?
I would like to. I've been looking into writing a book, but right now, like, kind of the limiting factor is time. I do work full time, and I'm doing social media just because, like I said, I love the joy of sharing education and knowledge. But I've also got my family, and so when the time is right, or maybe things slow down, or I cut back my hours, I would love to write a book. That's been something on my mind for a few years now. It's just time is the limiting factor.
What's a fun fact about yourself in the psychiatry industry people might not know about?
Fun fact about me and psychiatry? I know of the fun fact I usually share about myself, but it's not psychiatry related. So I'm trying to think of one linked to psychiatry. Well, I don't know if it's as a fun fact or like a scary fact, but I've probably interviewed and treated more than like 24 persons who committed murder and a few serial killers in my career. So I don't know if that's a fun fact related to psychiatry, but that's not something that we thankfully get to do every day. And that's been some very interesting work with those patients.
And I imagine you patient confidential things too you have to sign, right?
Always, yes. Once you've established that relationship, confidentiality is paramount. It's a law.
I wanted to ask you this too. A lot of your sessions are in person, but do you or a lot of other psychiatrists do virtual sessions as well?
Yes, I prefer a mix of both because, doing virtual allows you more access to patients who may have transportation barriers or things like that. So yes, I do both. I used to have my own private practice where I was fully telehealth. This was around COVID. As well. But right now I do a mix of in-person and telehealth.
How satisfying is it when you're able to help somebody?
It's a feeling that's kind of hard to it's a feeling that's kind of hard to describe, Chris. I think when people are doing good deeds or,
Kindness.
they realize kindness, yeah, and they realize the impact on someone else, or that person expresses gratitude, like, man, you saved my life, or thank you for helping me with this. I feel so much better now. It's just a feeling that can't be described. Like, man, this is such a joy, and this was a long journey together, but I'm glad we made it to this point. It feels like an internal victory, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yes, and just talking to you for like 50 minutes, I can tell how passionate you are.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Now, as we wrap this show up, this is a segment to put me on the hot seat. Ask the host CDP a question. No, CDP are my initials, by the way. Do you have a question for me before we wrap this up?
Yes, I was wondering this, and my husband was looking too at your podcast. So obviously we didn't look at all the shows or episodes, but we thought you were mostly focused on sports, or at least it started off that way. I saw you had interviewed some athletes, and even a few times you looked like you were on a football field or maybe soccer.
Yes.
What makes you want to branch out to interviewing, non-sports persons like myself?
I love doing sports, but when I switched careers into media 7 years ago from security, I love sports, obviously, but I didn't want to be stereotyped as a one-trick pony. So I'm basically trying to tell traditional TV and radio, hey, listen, I can do sports, but I can also interview musicians, comedians, doctors, lawyers, psychiatrists, strengths, therapists. I think my former career in security really helped me, because when I was in security for a casino racetrack environment, I had to deal with people had alcohol problems, substance problems, gambling addictions. I had to learn how to talk listen and think and show empathy. So my former career really prepared me for this. And as much as I love sports, I don't want to be stereotyped or stigmatized. This guy can only do sports. I'm trying to be, I just love what I'm doing. And I really enjoy having guests from different professions. I learn something new from every guest that comes on here. And I love good storytelling. And it's the guests that make a great show.
I love that. So you're eclectic. You didn't want to be kind of pigeonholed into sports only. You like variety. I like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, and I'm going to probably rebrand to the Chris Palme Show, like Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show. I like it. Unfortunately, sometimes people see the sports part and they're like, oh, he only talks sports. So I just want all my potential guests out there to see that I can do more than that. So I'm probably in the next little while going to rebrand this to the Chris Palme Show.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Keep it simple. And branding and marketing too is probably important in psychiatry as well.
Yeah. Just being in a niche versus being like an overall practitioner. Yep. Absolutely.
I have to ask you this before we wrap this up. How competitive is the psychiatry industry from your perspective?
I don't think it's truly competitive in terms of, if you mean like we're all vying for patients, or, don't steal my patients and go to clinic A, they need to go to clinic B. I don't think it's competitive in that way because there's so much need and there's so few of us. I think the only competition that comes to my mind is when you are applying for that residency. There may be only, I'm just making up a number, there may be only 200 spots that year, and you got 300 applicants. Not everybody's going to make it. So that's the only time where it really becomes competitive in my experience.
For those people who are watching our show right now, live stream or on audio, and they're having a difficult time right now, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I would say keep going no matter what. Difficult times are transient and short-lived, just like the good times are transient and short-lived. But if you give up, you won't know either way. So I encourage people to recognize that key first. There's a quote from Epictetus, a Greek Stoic philosopher: "The only constant is change." So that's good changes and that's bad changes, but that's really the only constant. So if you can just hold on when things seem rough, change is going to come. But please reach out for help. We're not meant to do this alone. We're just not. And so whatever resources or family, friends, hospital, reach out for help if you're really struggling.
Strong support system really helps too, whether it's family or non-family.
It doesn't always have to be family. Yep.
And I have a comment on here as we wrap this up, Dr. Olabisi. Stacy Thomas is watching on LinkedIn. She says, great show.
Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy, for watching us. And I'm going to put you on the spot here. This is the last question, I promise. What's next up for you, Dr. Olabisi? And how can our audience follow you on social media, potentially a website, and the best way of contacting you if they're in the Florida area?
Well, in terms of social media, so my name on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok is the DOC, mom of 2, the number 2, the doc mom of number 2. And in terms of next step for me, right now I'm just continuing, I just really started with the social media aspect, and I've been invited to do like 4 of these lives and podcasts, and I'm having fun with this. So right now I'm just going with the flow. Like I said, I time is the limiting factor with the family and my practice. So right now I'm just enjoying the education and the fun ride. I don't have a concrete answer for that.
Is this your first Canadian podcast live streaming show you've been on?
Yes. Correct.
So I'm number 1. By the way, do you have a favorite number?
Favorite number is 3. I have no idea why, but it just always has been my favorite number.
Mine is 19. Mine is number 19.
Why?
Favorite hockey player wore 19. I just always liked 19. 19 and 29 I like because my birthday's on the 29th.
Okay. You got meaning to yours. Mine is just happenstance.
Yes. And I just want to say, Dr. Olabisi, thank you so much for giving us time out of your busy schedule. Continued success in the psychiatry and the mental health industry as an educator. And you have an open invite to come back on this show or my other show, the Small Talk Podcast, in the future as well.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate you for all that you're doing, and this was wonderful. Thank you for everything.
And I hope you weren't nervous. You look like you're natural on camera.
It got better over time.
Yeah, that's my role as a talk show host, is to get my guests to feel comfortable and share their stories. And I could probably talk to you for 3, 4, 5 hours, but we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back. Thank you again.
And just give me a little bit of time tonight, because I'm going to go for my 20-minute walk. I will send you the video, the audio, and some reels and clips. And if you want the full video episode of this show, please let me know in a DM, and I can send it to you by WeTransfer.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much, and continued success. And we'll talk to you soon on social media.
All right, you have a good evening.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. That concludes season 14, episode 32, overall 747 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. And I want to say thank you so much to my guest today, Dr. Olabisi, for coming on and talking about being a psychiatrist, a shrink, and also she's a mental health educator as well. So I want to say thank you so much for her. And before we wrap up the show, guys, I'm going to play a little video clip that explains the differences between the right kind of therapy for you as well. And we're going to play this right now about figuring out which type of therapy is right for you. It's a little good clip from YouTube.
I answer the question, what type of therapy is best for me? So like I said, today I want to talk with you about finding what type of therapy best fits your struggles or the issues you're working on. I've heard from many of you that's a big concern, because oftentimes we don't even know what CBT, DBT, just a bunch of acronyms, and we're like, what the heck? I don't know what's best for me. So I've done some research, and the most common one that's available worldwide, I know many of you in the UK don't really have many options around what type of therapist you see, but regardless almost of where you live, CBT therapy is the only therapy that can be statistically proven. We can see patients improving over time. And therefore, in many of the socialized medicine areas of the world, they utilize CBT for that reason, and also because it's very short term. It's usually about 5 to 8 sessions, depending. Now, CBT is best for people with anxiety disorders, whether you have generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, you have panic attacks, anything like that. If you have obsessive compulsive disorder, or if you have any substance abuse issues. Now, the reason that CBT works so well for those issues is because at the core of what CBT is, and I have another video on this if you want more information, but the core of what CBT is it works to correct our faulty thinking. So all those automatic thoughts we have every day, like, we're running late and somebody's really rude to us, and we're like, that's because I'm an asshole, or that's because I'm a jerk, or I'm so lazy, or I'm so fat, or whatever those automatic thoughts we have. CBT works to figure out what belief is that automatic thought drawing from, and how can we help change it? So they do a lot of things like I do in my workbooks, where we talk back to the negative voice, we keep record of these thoughts, and we argue against them. We do a bunch of different things around what thoughts we have, and then changing them from negative thoughts into healthy, happy thoughts, because they believe that your thoughts equal your actions. Okay? The next type of therapy that I've talked a lot about, and something that I do also in my practice personally, is DBT therapy. Now, if you want more information on DBT, I have a video on that as well. So you can search on YouTube for that and find it if you want a little bit more in-depth explanation. But DBT was originally created by Marsha Linehan, and the reason that she created this was for people with BPD, or borderline personality disorder. So it works really well for people who struggle with that. And DBT is essentially CBT meets emotion regulation. And I've said this before, but a lot of people with borderline have been, the way they describe it as being like a burn victim to emotions. So Like everything is so super sensitive. And when things happen, we get really hurt. And so that's why the emotion regulation component is so important. Now, we also find that DBT is great for people with eating disorders, people with substance abuse issues. And the newer way that they're using it is actually for people with schizophrenia. So you can see that there's always a wide range of therapies. There's always new therapies coming out. Therapy is a changing field, and there's always something new. They're always trying new things. There's new research happening. But this is just, to date, many of the reasons that we use DBT. Now, the reason DBT works best for eating disorders and substance abuse and borderline personality disorder is because it helps us not only correct that faulty thinking that we talked about with the CBT, but it helps us regulate our emotion when we feel like our emotions are controlling us versus the other way around. Now, the most common therapy, so we have CBT, we have DBT, and now we have talk therapy. And I'm just going to call it talk therapy to kind of encompass what most therapists will do. If you make an appointment and you're nervous and you're wondering what your first appointment will look like, it's most likely going to be talk therapy. And the reason that we do that most is because a lot of people may not know exactly, they may not have a diagnosis. They may not know exactly why they're really coming to you. They're struggling with this one thing, but they're just feeling overwhelmed. And talk therapy helps us not only work through some of our past stuff, figuring out ways that we were raised and things that have happened to us and how that may affect us now. We can also beg, borrow, and steal from all other types of therapy. And so talk therapy just helps us process through what's happening. Maybe we're using CDPs, we talk back to the voices, and then we get better. Now, talk therapy can help us with mainly mood disorders. Now, I'm going to say mood disorders because talk therapy isn't something for those of us who are severely mentally ill, people who may need hospitalizations. We may need an inpatient treatment. When we feel like our life is really unmanageable, talk therapy is not usually the best. We need a full treatment team at that point. But if you're feeling depressed, you're feeling kind of anxious sometimes, you're going through a divorce, maybe you're just having some family communication issues, maybe you're about to get married and you're doing premarital counseling, all of that falls under talk therapy. And the reason that it helps so much is because oftentimes what most of us are looking for is someone who is unbiased, as unbiased as someone can be. They only know what we tell them, and they can reflect things back to us and help us process through what may feel chaotic in our own mind. They can slow it down, help explain things to us, help us come to good, healthy decisions in our life. So no matter what type of therapy is available to you, no matter if it's CBT, DBT, talk therapy, they're all beneficial for all issues. Some are just more specialized. So if you have the ability to find a specialized therapist, I would encourage you to do so. But for those of you who don't think that you can't seek certain therapy because it's not specialized for what you're struggling with. It will still help. And I hope this helps kind of helps you navigate the whole therapy realm, because we use terms in the therapy world that regular people don't even know. It doesn't make sense to them, and no one explains what the difference is. But know that as long as you're working in your own process with your therapist, things will get better. And continue working with me towards a healthy mind and a healthy body. Community. We learn from.
All right, guys, that wraps up my show tonight. Season 14, episode 32, overall 747. I want to say special thanks again to my guest tonight, Dr. Olabisi, a psychiatrist and a mental health educator from Tampa Bay, Florida, for coming on as well. You can follow her on TikTok and on Instagram, and you can check out her handles on there as well. And she's also on a website called psychologytoday.com, psychiatrist, and she is on Instagram, the Doc Mom of Two on Instagram, and you can also check out her on Linktree, the Doc Mom of Two. It's kind of her website, and also on TikTok at the Doc Mom of Two on TikTok. So thank you so much again to Dr. Olabisi, a psychiatrist from Tampa Bay, for coming on here, guys. And also make sure you check out my content from today's Oblivion Car and Culture Show 80s and 90s that took place at Area 8, the Conservation Park in Milton on Stills Avenue. I have 3 interviews and some pictures and some videos as well from the classic cars, including from Knight Rider or the DeLorean from the Back to the Future movie as well. And I want to say thank you to everyone for watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, X, and Instagram, and also to my audience on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods. Lately, there's been an issue with Good Pods. I'm hoping they can fix my episodes, getting back on there. And this show is on all audio platforms as well. So thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to the show. And also to my guest, Dr. Olabisi, a psychiatrist and mental health educator as well. I have some news here as well. Before, guys, check out my latest Argonauts game night story on WordPress.com. Just type in Live with CDP and go to WordPress and check out my story of the Argos 33-30 win over Calgary, or just go on to beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Click on WordPress. That will take you to my latest article on the Argos Stampeders game as well. And as we wrap up the show, guys, the next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show to be announced coming up soon. The Argo Bounce Podcast Show, Episode 9 with Nick Small and Chris Palme will take place on Tuesday, August 11th at 8 p.m. So the Argo Bounce Podcast Show with Nick Small and myself will be back for Episode 9 on Tuesday, August 11th, 8 p.m. And who knows, we might even have a special guest. Nick and I are going to break down the Argos thrilling 33-30 win over Calgary and some of the changes at BMO Field with the World Cup grass field and also the new luxury suites. And they're going to have an outside upper deck patio in 2027 and also the light show. You see this in NFL and college football stadiums in the States where when it gets dark out, they flash the lights and they do a light show. And I thought they did a really great job as well. And I want to say a big shout out to Nick Eves, CEO of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment Talk Show, and Keith Pelly, who I both got to see on pregame and say hello to both of them. I think they're doing a great job. And they gave out 10,000 Toronto Argonauts 1991 replica mesh jerseys with the late John Candy's initials on it as well. So big shout out to Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment and improving the in-game product at BMO Field. Obviously, the on-field product is really good with the Argos, who are getting better every week at 4-4. And I'm excited to get back there on Saturday, August 22nd at 7 o'clock when they take on the Hamilton Tiger Cats at the C&E game. You can get your tickets at argonauts.ca. So again, guys, join me and Nick Tuesday, August 11th at 8 p.m. for the Argo Bounce Podcast Show. And the Small Talk Podcast, a monthly entertainment talk show with Marlene Sharp and myself, will return Tuesday, August 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 on the West Coast, with 2 special guests from Los Angeles. More information coming on that as well. And again, the next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show to be announced. I am working on more guests and more great shows as well. And before we wrap this up, guys, StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars, live streaming, podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. They have basic free plans, paid professional plans like I do, and they also have business plans. Go to StreamYard.com and contact their sales department there as well. Again, thank you to Dr. Olabisi out of Tampa Bay for coming on and talking about the psychiatry and the mental health industry. And thank you to everyone for watching this show. And again, guys, I will be back very soon for another edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, hosted by yours truly, Chris Palme. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend. And we'll see you back here on Tuesday, August 11th, 8 p.m. with Nick Small and I for the Argo Bounce Podcast Show. And Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show will return very soon, as well as the Small Talk Podcast as well. And make sure you check me out on beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme, or go to all my other social media platforms at Chris Palme on TikTok, at Live with CDP 19 on Blue Sky Social. And also check out my YouTube channel. I am now 80 subscribers away from 1,000 YouTube subscribers. So go to YouTube, Chris Palme, Live with CDP Talk Show. Subscribe, like, and share. And please check out my YouTube shorts as well. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to the show. And we'll see you back here Tuesday night at 8 p.m. for the Argo Bounce Podcast Show with Nick Small and myself. Have a good night, everybody.